All right, folks, out in the garage. It is the 2nd or 3rd of August, and it is hot here in Central Texas, but kind of a fun video here. I wish I would have recorded a little bit more, but I'll start with just kind of the overall review, because I'm sure if you saw the thing, this is what you're coming here for. I've got a little bit of video of me recording riding. I haven't even watched the video yet to see if that turned out decent. I'm going to dump these GoPros, by the way, and move over to the DJI, and I'll probably do a video of that later. But I did get some video of me putting the rear in, and I did not take any video of me doing the fronts. I wasn't anticipating on doing all of it by myself, but I ended up doing it all by myself, and I just had a short window, and I was all dirty, and I just was like, it's just going to take even longer if I start getting the cameras out and trying to do that. And I wanted to really pay attention to what I was doing. But I got it all done, and I have to say that this is an incredible upgrade. Like many other people getting into the Lowrider ST, getting into the Harley for the first time, I didn't have any, I didn't really know like what's good suspension, what's not good suspension. It felt like on this bike that the suspension was pretty decent, but when you sit on a bike or when you ride a bike that has an upgraded suspension, then you immediately go, oh, okay, yeah, this is pretty significant difference. One of the things that I will say is that, I think a lot of people think that you put the suspension on and then you get on your bike and you go ride and you're just gonna like glide over bumps and you're not gonna feel anything anymore, and you're like on a cloud or something on a Cadillac suspension, and it's just not like that. Like where I noticed the biggest difference in a really good way was at speed, like going 70 highway speed, 70, 75, 80, whatever. And man, it just feels solid. It feels so good. It feels exactly like what you would expect a $23,000 sport touring bike to feel like riding it off of the showroom floor, but I digress. But if you read, even if you read in Legends, like in the installation guide and stuff, when they're talking about the fronts, they even say this is actually going to probably accentuate, particularly at like lower speeds, some of the bumps and stuff because the stock suspension is so spongy and soft that you're going to feel some stuff that you probably didn't feel before. But obviously the shocks are much better and they rebound better and all that kind of stuff. And so everything sort of smooths it out. But the main thing that you feel, it just feels solid. You don't feel like when you sit on a bike, you normally would kind of feel like you could sort of push it down and it would sort of bounce a little bit. Can't really do that anymore. It's pretty solid when you sit on it. And the biggest thing that I noticed, second to just how solid it is at like highway speeds and when you're just cruising, is in the corners. And so I've got 5,000 miles on this bike, and I've ridden it all over Central Texas, and went and hit a bunch of roads that I'm pretty comfortable on. And you get some of those sweeping turns where you're going 55, 60, 70 miles an hour, and you get these big sweeping turns, and man, it just like it is so much more solid on these turns, and even the tighter turns, even in the more twisty kind of turns, there's so much more confidence there. I'll just say that in terms of being able to feel the bike and not feel that. One of the big things you'll notice with the fronts especially is that when you grab a bunch of brake, that dive that happens on that inverted fork design, you just get that real pronounced dive that is gone with the suspension. So I know there's a lot of Legends or Ohlins or Wilburs or all these different kind of things, right? I know it's like almost like politics or something. I didn't buy into all that. I was just trying to find something that was a good mix between performance and comfort, something that was, they're all kind of about the same price, to be honest, and then something I wanted to do it myself, and so something that wasn't too crazy, that had me like, cutting into stuff or, doing whatever. To do the install by myself. And I wasn't even actually fully attempting or thinking I was going to do the front forks by myself. I was actually going to take them over to a local shop or have a buddy of mine come over that has one of those castle nut jigs and have them crack the thing open and basically gut the thing out and just give the two back to me, and I'd finish it up and put them back in the bike. But I ended up doing everything by myself, and it's not a hard job. I'm not like a certified mechanic or anything. I've been working on my own cars and stuff for a long time and everything, so I do, and I've got good tools. That helps. But I fully believe this is a job anybody who would call themselves like a garage mechanic would be able to do. And I don't know what the 3 or 4 hours probably is what a shop would charge you to do this stuff. And so you could save yourself $500 or $600 by doing yourself. And I went really slow. It took my time, probably took me 3 hours total to do all of it. So highly recommend. I've got a couple of videos. Again, hopefully they turned out good, but I got one of kind of a mishmash of doing some of the install, the rear. Again, I didn't record any doing the install of the front. I'll put a link down. J&P Cycles did a video, install video, and for the fronts that I followed to the T, and it was perfect. And so, and it's much better recording and everything else. And so I'll put that in the description. If you were coming here looking for like an example or something like that of what to do, the J&P Cycles video is fantastic. But anyway, thanks for stopping by. Much appreciated. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to let me know. At some point, maybe after I put 1,000 miles or something on that, I may come back and do a quick review or something of it. But hopefully this helps. If you're making the decision or trying to make a decision or whatever, hopefully it helps, and be safe out there. Talk to you all soon. Some Legends shocks. You can see I got the bike in a precarious situation here. I got the fronts off. I'm actually going to take the fronts over to my shop because I do not have the Castle nut. I think it's on this one on the right hand side. To get the spring under pressure in here, you got to have this Castle nut jig. And also don't have anything that I can use for my vice grip to kind of hold it in there. So the backs, I'm taking those to the shop tomorrow, and they're going to do those for me. The Legends are just these AXEO43s, and so they are just these really nice drop-ins. So once you get all the guck out of the fork tubes from the stock stuff, you pretty simply just put those in there, and then you need a little fork oil. So I got that ready to go. And I already did the rear. So here's all the accoutrement. As far as on like a 1 to 10 scale of doing the rear shock by yourself, especially this one, because there isn't, you know, the stock one had this little reservoir that was, this is that famous or infamous factory recall bolt that this thing would shear off and it would drop down and hit your rear tire and cause problems and stuff. And so I had that done at the 1,000 mile service. But this is the stock monoshock in the back. Pretty easy to get this thing out. A couple things that I'll mention that I haven't seen anybody talk about in some of the other videos, but on the REVO, you have this piece on the top and the bottom. And the top on the stock shock, it's just like, I think it's just like a rubber bushing or something in there. Oh no, sorry, this is the top piece on there. So this is this rubber kind of a bushing, it doesn't pop out. On the bottom side, you're gonna have these pieces of metal that go in, and then the bolts that attach to the frame and stuff go through here. The one on the top, so the one that goes up here, on this bolt up here, you can kind of see a little bit of it sticking out on the side, that little piece in there, but it goes through, and the frame is like cut in the middle there, and this piece just has to like slide perfectly in there, and then the bolt feeds through the frame actually on that side, but the bolt feeds to the frame. Mine was too tight. It was literally like a 1/16 of an inch, just barely. So what I ended up doing was just coming over to my grinder over here and basically just grinding enough of it off on the edge. I would just hit it a little bit, come back over and test it. I tested on this one a little bit first just to kind of play around with it and see if I could make sure I could get it level. I obviously didn't do a very good job on that, but if you run into that problem on yours, that's how I fixed it. It's really hard to see right here, but like that's the frame, you know, right over on this other side, and there's just nothing. I tried like, maybe could I get a crowbar in there and try to pry the frame apart just a smidge, but I was like, nah, it's not gonna work. So just start, you know, just basically just shaving that down a smidge worked pretty fine. This has to come off, obviously. It's just a couple Allen bolts, and you've got this one little bolt right here that you got to take off. But that comes off, and this is where the reservoir thing is that goes with the stock monoshock. And then you've got a couple things down here. I don't know if you can see that well enough, but here's that little piece in front of my finger right there that has to kind of feed through there, and then it allows the shock to sort of move back and forth. You can see the shock is sort of oriented over to the left-hand side, and it allows that the shock to sort of move back and forth. And of course, there's a bolt that's underneath it, and then you've got this pinch bolt thing right here. I did not have a problem getting to that. You can see if I kind of move the camera down a little bit, there's a decent amount of room in there. What I actually ended up doing is I have these little tiny, I bought these when I did the Trask Checkmate. I bought them off of Amazon, and they're these kind of low profile heads. And so I put those on. I don't know what I did with I think I put it back in my toolbox, but I've got a little snap-on, just a little 1/8" driver, and I just put it onto that, and it gave me enough room, more than enough room, to put this in there and to actually have a ratchet that I could move back and forth. So that was nice, and that screw does not have to come all the way out. It's basically just a pinch screw. You just have to get it loose enough where you can start getting that piece out on there. But anyway, that's how that is supposed to look back here, and I'm assuming, obviously, as you're turning and doing stuff, the shock is just kind of moving back and forth on that piece back there, kind of the same as it is up here a little bit as well. And then of course here you've got the little tool. If you want to adjust the sag, it comes with this little spanner wrench tool that you can just grab a hold of any of the things and move it forward and backwards to increase or decrease. And then for the rebound, I don't know if you can see that or read that or not, but it just says fast and slow. So fast to the left, slow to the right. I think there's 7 positions. And so you can just move that back and forth and adjust this. The adjustment stuff was really easy. You basically just get your tape measure, and you come from the top of here down to some point in here and measure it while the bike is on the stand and the wheel is down. And then you put the bike down, put the seat, just lay the seat back on top of it and sit on it, and you want it to be anywhere from 3/4 to 1 1/4 inches, basically, is what you want that sag to fall in between. And so if you're out of bounds of that, or you want to mess with it, you just grab that spanner wrench and you just crank on it, put it back down, measure it again, figure out where you want it to be. So it's super easy to do that. And that's pretty much it. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's about as easy of a job as you can get. If you run into some little issue like that, you got to be able to think on your toes a little bit. I would only say it's marginally difficult in the sense that you have to have the tools, right? You have to have something that you can get the bike up off of the ground for sure. And then you got to have Torx tools. You got to have decent tools, right? You're going to put yourself in a strip stuff and do all kinds of bad stuff if you just have crappy tools that you're trying to do this stuff with. On the front, getting the forks out is obviously pretty easy to do. You definitely, as you can tell, do not need to take the fairing off to get the forks out. So it's definitely an option to do that versus, bringing your bike into a shop and having them charge you for extra labor to jack the bike up and do everything. You literally can just take the forks out. All you have to do is just loosen these. There's 3 pinch bolts. It's a Torx. And I just used, I've got my snap-on here with a long extension, and obviously when you have this setup right here, it's really easy to move the forks, the handlebars and stuff back and forth. And so you just find the spot where you can get a nice orientation for that, and it's an easy bolt to spin back and forth. I have to look when I put everything back together. I'm putting it back together with the torque specs and stuff from out of the book, so I'll look that up when I put everything back together again. But that's the big part. Obviously you probably want a little bit of help putting them back in, just so you can have somebody get them where they're right where you want it, and hold it right there as you start tightening the bolts back up so it doesn't move back around.
Get a little rip. Yeah. Great road back here, Texas Hill Country. So what do I got? What do I have? So I've got the Revo Legends, and again, I got the 13.5. They make a 13.5, and they make a 13.5 heavy duty for probably for folks that are two up riding all the time and stuff like that. But I obviously didn't want to get that. Got the 13.5 so I could sit up a little higher. Super easy install. Ran into that one little snag I was telling you about where I had to kind of grind one of those spacer alignment things down a little bit, but that was no big deal. And then in the fronts, I got the cartridges. And to be honest, I mean, that was the ease of that was probably one of the biggest things for me, because I intend on doing as much of that myself as possible. I will have a friend helping me do one of the forks because I need the castle nut jig to get that fork taken apart. But also, you have to be honest with yourself on what you're looking for when you're spending the money to do a suspension. I mean, I can tell you for sure that just even riding 8 miles or whatever I've ridden so far, that it's a market improvement over your butt. And the way this suspension stuff works is that what's happening in the rear, when you change the rear, that's really more of what you're doing for your ride. And so on a road like this, where you're going 60, 70, 80, whatever, and it's not a highway, so it's got some grade in it, and it's got, you know, it's a little bumpy. A shock like what's in the rear is going to go a long way at helping you not chatter your teeth out. And it's pretty good. I might mess with it to maybe make the rebound a little bit slower or faster and just kind of play around with it and see what I like better, what kind of works out better for me. But it's pretty good now. And as I said, it's definitely better than stock. And I know most folks, if they're only doing one, they generally tend to do the rear because you feel it more. I mean, it's obviously very crucial to the ride, that rear tire and soaking up the bumps, and it's right over the top of your butt. And then of course the fronts, that's kind of where the performance is, and the handling and those kinds of things. And one of the biggest ones is that the stock fork dive when you grab some brake. And even if you're using some braking in a turn, oh, hold on a second here. And even if you're doing some braking in a turn and you're just trying to do one little tap, just to get the nose to dive a little bit, to get a little bit more pressure on those tires, fatten those tires out a little bit, get a little more grip. These Harley, these stock suspensions just nosedive like crazy. In fact, when I straighten up here, I'll just kind of show you. If you're, I mean, obviously if you're riding a Harley and you got stock suspension, you can, you know, already know for yourself. But yeah, you know, I'm going like 60 coming up to the light here, and even if I just tap a little bit, you can see, certainly if I grab a whole bunch of it, it rocks me around all over the place. And so my understanding is that when you go to those front forks, it takes a lot of that nose dive. It takes a lot of that out. But on a road like this, so this is Highway 29 in kind of Liberty Hill, Texas, north of Austin, 40 minutes or so north of Austin. You know, this is one of those roads where you'll really, if you just kind of chill out on a road like this, this is where you're really going to feel the difference between the stock suspension and this Legend suspension. And again, for me, it's really just like, kind of like I said before, it's just kind of, it just feels a little more planted, a little firm. as it should.